projects going in the background, but I'm gonna need you to sit back and relax because I'm gonna tell you some scary stories. Also, I think I'll need you to turn out the light because these are scary stories to tell in the dark. I'm allowed to have the light I'm reading. I need it to read. No, but actually though, do you guys like know this? Do you know this book? I'm so sorry, the cover is so scary, but I got this book at like a Scholastic book fair, I'm pretty sure, because I was obsessed with, it's 3 individual books, and I was so obsessed with them. I like had a couple friends that had them, and I needed to have like the collection, the collection. She's so scary. Okay, but this is gonna be very like hangout and relax style of a video. I have not predetermined which stories I'm gonna tell, so I'm gonna flip through the book until I find ones I remember, or ones that I think would be good, and we're gonna kind of go, I mean, they're all relatively short, but we're gonna go for the shorter ones. I'm not trying to like take up a lot of time with one super long story, so I'll take ones that are like semi-long but not too long. So without further ado, get your hot cocoa, get a book. Not a book. Don't get a book, please. I'm reading you a book. That would be weird. Get a hot cocoa, get a blanket is what I was going for, the other B word, and relax while I tell you these stories. Let me know what you think about the wind in the background. Or don't. It's kind of too late, I'm already doing it. So the first book is called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And then the second is called More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And then the third one is called Scary Stories 3, More Tales to Chill Your Bones. So, but before I read you anything, I will be sure to let you know what the name of the story is in case you want to like go read it again or find it online, but I'm going to kind of flip through. So this one is called What Do You Come For? There was an old woman who lived all by herself, and she was very lonely. She was very lonely. Sitting in the kitchen one night, she said, "Oh, I wish I had some company." No sooner had she spoken than down the chimney tumbled 2 feet from which the flesh had rotted. Here's a visual for you. 2 feet from the chimney, rotting flesh. The old woman's eyes bulged with terror. Sorry. Then 2 legs dropped to the hearth and attached themselves to the feet. Then a body tumbled down, then 2 arms and a man's head. As the old woman watched, the parts came together into a great gangling man. The man danced around and around the room. Faster and faster he went. Then he stopped and he looked into her eyes. "What do you come for?" she asked in a small voice, and shivered and shook. "What do I come for?" he said. "I come for you. As you shout..." Not me reading the part I wasn't supposed to read. It says here, "As you shout the last words, stamp your foot and jump at someone nearby." Guys, this is like such a sleepover, like read in a group of girls, and like, we're all too scared, and it's like past our bedtime, and like whoever's hosting the sleepover their parents have already gone to sleep, so you really feel like alone in the dark. And then one girl's like, can you call my mom? And you have to wake up your parents so she can go home because she got too scared. It's still the vibe. Alright, so I'm gonna actually change the background noise because it's bothering me. I'm gonna make it a fireplace. Okay, so one second. Okay, so this is still howling wind, but now it's like we're inside next to a fireplace rather than outside in the howling wind. Okay, so I'm gonna look for another one. Oh, I love this. This is the man who lived in Leeds. I don't know what Leeds are. Don't want it to overshine. Some say this rhyme doesn't mean anything. Others are not so sure. There was a man who lived in Leeds. He filled his garden full of seeds. And when the seeds began to grow, it was like a garden filled with snow. But when the snow began to melt, it was like a ship without a belt. And when the ship began to sail, it was like a bird without a tail. And when the bird began to fly, it was like an eagle in the sky. And when the sky began to roar, it was like a lion at your door, at my door. And when the door began to crack, it was like a penknife in my back. And when my back began to bleed, I was dead, dead indeed. So I'm looking for another one. There's some definitely like pretty iconic ones in here. Oh my god, these pictures are, the illustrations in this book, you guys, I'm actually going to share with you some of them that weren't too scary, because if you're trying to go to bed, this is just not the vibe. This is like an illustration. It's like such a creepy style of drawing, like this type of illustration where it's like watercolor but like black and white. So creepy. I love this. So this one's called the Hearse Song. Don't you laugh. I already fucked it up. Okay. Okay. The Hearse Song. Don't you ever laugh as the hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in a big white sheet from your head down to your feet. They put you in a big black box and cover you up with dirt and rocks. All goes well for about a week, but then your coffin begins to leak. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. The worms play pinnacle in your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose, they eat the jelly between your toes. A big green worm with rolling eyes crawls in your stomach and out your eyes. Your stomach turns a slimy green, and pus pours out like whipping cream. You spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you eat when you're dead. I love that. It's gross, but like, you clicked on the video. I'm not. We're doing full on scary. Okay, this is called May I carry your basket? Sam Lewis spent the evening playing chess at a friend's house. It was about midnight when they finished their game, and he started home. Outside it was icy cold and as quiet as the grave. As he came around a turn in the road, he was surprised to see a woman walking ahead of him. She was carrying a basket covered with a white cloth. When he caught up to her, he looked to see who it was, but she was so bundled up against the cold, it was hard to see her face. "Good evening," Sam said. "What brings you out so late?" But she didn't answer. Then he said, "May I carry your basket?" She handed it to him. From under the cloth, a small voice said, "That's very nice of you." And that was followed by a wild laughter. Sam was so startled that he dropped the basket, and out rolled a woman's head. He looked at the head and stared at the woman. "It's her head," he cried, and he started to run, as he should. And the woman and her head began to chase him. I was not expecting that. Not her head rolling and chasing him. Wait, that's actually so scary. Soon the head caught up to him. It bounded into the air and sunk its teeth into its left leg. Not the head jumping up. Sam screamed with pain and ran faster, but the woman and her head stayed right behind. Soon the head leaped into the air again and bit into his other leg. Then they were gone. It's so spooky. What do you mean, and then they were gone? Like, she just wanted to bite both of his legs and leave? I don't understand. Guys, the hook. Okay, we're getting into urban legends. The urban legends of it all. I'm reading you guys the hook, guys. If you guys don't know this story, it's a huge urban legend. So it's like one of those like retelling American urban legends. So Donald and Sarah went to the movies. They went for a ride in Donald's car. They parked up on a hill at the edge of town. From there, they could see the lights up and down the valley. Donald turned on the radio and found some music, but an announcer broke in with a news bulletin. A murderer had escaped from the state prison. He was armed with a knife and was headed south on foot. His left hand was missing. In its place, he wore a hook. First of all, they would not let him have a hook hand in prison, but whatever. "Let's roll up the windows and lock the doors," said Sarah. "That's a good idea," said Donald. "That prison isn't too far away," said Sarah. Maybe we really should go home." "But it's only 10 o'clock, said Donald. "I don't care what time it is," she said. "I want to go home." "Look, Sarah," Donald said. "He's not going to climb all the way up here. Why would he do that? Even if he did, all the doors are locked. How could he get in?" "Donald, he could take that hook and break through the window and open a door," she said. "I'm scared and want to go home." Donald was annoyed. This isn't in the story, but Donald was trying to get laid. That's why he's annoyed. But never be with a guy who's going to treat you like this, okay? Like, ew. Ew. Like, she wants to go home. Also, what do you mean, like, there's a murderer and we're gonna, oh, maybe we should roll up the windows. No, maybe we should actually just leave. Like, what the Anyway, you didn't come here for my commentary. I'm scared. I want to go home. Donald was annoyed. "Girls are always afraid of something," he said. All my homies hate Donald. All my homies hate Donald. If you hate Donald, in the comments, all my homies hate Donald. Ew. As he started the car, Sarah thought she heard someone or something scratching at her door. "Did you hear that?" she asked as they roared away. "It sounded like somebody was trying to get in." "Oh, sure," said Donald. Soon they got to her house. "Would you like to come in and have some cocoa?" she asked. "No," he said. "I've got to go home." He went around to the other side of the car to let her out. Hanging on the door was a hook. They almost got killed, but thanks to Sarah. Also, him not coming in for cocoa, like, it's too much. Okay, this one is called High Beams. This is one of my favorite urban legends. The girl driving the old blue sedan was a senior at the high school. She lived on a farm about 8 miles away, and she used a car to drive back and forth. She had driven into town that night to see a basketball game. Now she was on her way home. As she pulled away from the school, she noticed a red pickup truck follow her out of the parking lot. A few minutes later, the truck was still behind her. "I guess we're going in the same direction," she thought. She began to watch the truck in her mirror. When she changed her speed, the driver of the truck changed his speed. When she passed a car, so did he. Then he turned on his high beams, flooding her car with light. He left them on for almost a minute. "He probably wants to pass me," she thought, but she was becoming uneasy. Usually she drove home over a back road. Not too many people went that way. But when she turned onto that road, so did the truck. "I've got to get away from him," she thought, and she began to drive faster. Then he turned on his high beams again. After a minute, he again turned them off. Then he turned them on again and off again. She drove even faster, but the truck driver stayed right behind her. Then he turned on his high beams again. Once more, her car was ablaze with light. "What is he doing?" she wondered. "What does he want?" Then he turned them off again. But a minute later, he had them on again, and he left them on. At last, she pulled into her driveway, and the truck pulled in right behind her. That is so scary. Like, "You're pulling into my driveway?" "I'm pulling into my driveway." She jumped from the car and ran to the house. "Call the police!" She screamed at her father out in the driveway. She could see the driver of the truck. He had a gun in his hand. When the police arrived, they started to arrest him, but he pointed to the girl's car. "You don't want me," he said. "You want him." Crouched behind the driver's seat, there was a man with a knife. As the driver of the truck explained it, the man slipped into the girl's car just before she left the school. He saw it happen, but there was no way he could stop it. He thought about getting the police, but he was afraid to leave her, so he followed her car. Each time the man in the back seat reached up to overpower her, the driver of the truck turned on his high beams. Then the man dropped down, afraid that someone might see him. That is so spookalicious. Guys, I thought there was a hair in my book. You can barely see it. I thought there was a hair. It's pencil. It's pencil. But this was the illustration for High Beams, which is a really nice illustration, I think. Such a creepy one. And then continuing on with our urban legend lore, we have the babysitter. The babysitter. She looks so over it, that baby. So scary, so scary. It was 9 o'clock in the evening. Everybody was sitting on the couch in front of the TV. In front of the TV. There were Richard, Brian, Jenny, and Doreen, the babysitter. The telephone rang. "Maybe it's your mother," said Doreen. She picked up the phone. Before she could say a word, a man laughed hysterically and hung up. "Who was it?" asked Richard. "Some nut," said Doreen. "What did I miss?" At 9:30, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. It was the man who had called before. I'll be there soon, he said. And he laughed and hung up. Who was it? The children asked. Some crazy person, she said. About 10 o'clock and the telephone rang again. Jenny got to it first. Hello? Hello? She said. It was the same man. 1 more hour, he said, and he laughed and hung up. He said, 1 more hour. What did he mean? Asked Jenny. Don't worry, said Doreen. It's somebody fooling around. I'm scared, said Jenny. About 10:30, the phone rang once more. When Doreen picked it up, the man said, Pretty soon now. And he laughed. Why are you doing this? Doreen screamed. And he hung up. Was it that guy again? Asked Brian. Yes, said Doreen. I'm going to call the operator and complain. The operator told her to call back if it happened again, and she would try to trace the call. At 11 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. Very soon now, the man said, and he laughed and hung up. Doreen called the operator. Almost at once, she called back. That person is calling from a telephone upstairs, she said. You'd better leave. I'll get the police. Just then, a door upstairs opened. A man they had never seen before started down the stairs towards them. As they ran from the house, he was smiling in a very strange way. A few minutes later, the police found him there and arrested him. Oh, there's actually a movie about that. There's actually a few movies about that called When a Stranger Calls. Is that the name of it? I forget, but there's a couple movies based on that story, that urban legend. This one's fun and very cute, so I'm gonna read it, and there's pictures. So this one's called Slithery Dee. It's not a story really, but a rhyme. The Slithery Dee, he came out of the sea. He ate all the others, but he didn't eat me. And we have this first page. Slithery Dee came out of the sea. He ate all the others, but he didn't eat me. The Slithery Dee, he came out of the sea. He ate all the others, but he didn't eat. He did eat him. Slithery Dee did come out of the sea and eat actually all of them, so I don't know why this guy thought he was so special. There's so many to read, you guys. I'm honestly just flipping through because I know there's like some really good ones. And I want to read the best ones. So now we're on the second book. More scary stories to tell in the dark. I'm gonna see if I can find a couple good ones here. Okay, so this one is called The Man in the Middle, and we have a fun little illustration for you here. It was almost midnight. Sally Truitt had just gotten on the subway train at 15th Street after visiting her mother. Don't worry, Sally had told her. The subway is safe. There is always a policeman on duty. But that night she didn't see one. Except for her, the subway car was empty. At 42nd Street, 3 tough-looking men got on. 2 of them were holding up the third, who looked drunk. His legs had rolled from side to side. His legs refused to work. When they got him seated between them, his head came to rest on one of his shoulders. Sally thought he was staring at her. She buried her head in a book and tried not to notice. At 28th Street, one of them men stood up. "Take it easy, Jim," he said to the man in the middle, and he got off. At 23rd Street, Jim's other friend stood up. "You'll be fine," he said, and he got off. Now the only ones left in the car were Jim and Sally. Just then, the train went around a sharp curve, and Jim pitched onto the floor at Sally's feet. When she looked down at him, she saw a trickle of blood on the side of his head, and just above it, a bullet hole. That is so freaky. I mean, just reading these stories and being like, guys, isn't that so scary? Like, be scared. It is so scary though. Okay. So this one is called The Bus Stop. Ed Cox was driving home from work in a rainstorm. While he waited for the traffic light to change, he saw a young woman standing alone at the bus stop. She had no umbrella and was soaking wet. "Are you going toward Farmington?" he called. "Yes, I am," she said. "Would you like a ride home?" "I would," she said, and she got in. "My name is Joanna Finney. Thank you for rescuing me." "I'm Ed Cox," he said. "And you're welcome." On the way, they talked and talked. She told him about her family and her job and where she'd gone to school. And he told her about himself. By the time they got to her house, the rain had stopped. "I'm glad it rained," Ed said. "Would you like to go out tomorrow after work?" "I'd love to," Joanna said. She asked him to meet her at the bus stop since it was near her office. They had such a good time, they went out many times after that. Always they would meet at the bus stop and off they'd go. Ed liked her more each time he saw her. But one night, when they had a date to go out, Joanna did not appear. Ed waited at the bus stop for almost an hour. Maybe something's wrong, he thought, and he drove to her house in Farmington. An older woman came to the door. "I'm Ed Cox," he said. "Maybe Joanna told you about me?" "I had a date with her tonight. We were supposed to meet up at the bus stop near her office. But she didn't show up. Is she all right?" The woman looked at him as if he'd said something strange. "I am Joanna's mother," she said slowly. "Joanna isn't here now. But why don't you come in?" Ed pointed to a picture on the mantel. "That looks just like her," he said. "It did once," her mother replied. "But that picture was taken when she was at your age, about 20 years ago. A few days later, she was waiting in the rain at that bus stop. A car hit her, and she was killed." Just saying. Okay, you guys, this one, I don't actually think I ever read this story. There's also a movie called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But I saw this, like, this figure was in the movie, but this picture used to freak me out so much when I was a kid. So I'm just gonna warn you just in case, but it's not that crazy. Like, it's not crazier than the front. It's literally a smiling image, but this freaked me out so much when I was a kid. I used to always, like, skip this page or try to skip this page because it freaked me out so much. It was so scary to me. But because of that, reclaiming, like, let's read it. Let's read the story behind the picture. So this is called The Dream. Lucy Morgan was an artist. She had spent a week painting in a small country town and decided that the next day she would move on. She would go to a village called Kingston. But that night, Lucy Morgan had a strange dream. She dreamed that she was walking up a dark, carved staircase and entered into a bedroom. It was an ordinary room except for two things. The carpet was made up of large squares that looked like trapdoors. And each of the windows was fastened shut with big nails that stuck up out of the wood. In her dream, Lucy Morgan went to sleep in that bedroom. During the night, a woman with a pale face and black eyes and long black hair came into the room. She leaned over the bed and whispered, "This is an evil place. Flee while you can." When the woman touched her arm to hurry her along, Lucy Morgan awakened from her dream with a shriek. She lay awake the rest of the night trembling. In the morning, she told her landlady that she had decided not to go to Kingston after all. "I can't tell you why," she said, "but I just can't bring myself to go there." "Then why don't you go to Dorset?" the landlady said. "It's a pretty town, it isn't too far." So Lucy Morgan went to Dorset. Someone told her she could find a room in a house at the top of the hill. It was a pleasant-looking house, and the landlady there, a plump, motherly woman, was nice as could be. "Let's look at the room," she said. "I think you'll like it." I think I know where this is going. They walked up a dark, carved staircase, like the one in Lucy's dream. In these old houses, the staircases are all the same, Lucy thought. But when the landlady opened the door to the bedroom, it was the room in her dream, with the same carpet that looked like trapdoors and the same windows fastened with big nails. "This is just a coincidence," Lucy told herself. "How do you like it?" the landlady asked. "I'm not sure," she said. "Well, take your time," the landlady said. "I'll bring you some tea while you think about it." Lucy sat on the bed, staring at the trapdoors and the big nails. Soon there was a knock at the door. "It's the landlady with tea," she thought. But it wasn't the landlady. It was the woman with the pale face and the black eyes and the long black hair. Lucy Morgan grabbed her things and fled. She should have went to Kingston. I kind of want to read this one, but it's kind of long, so we'll skip that one. This one was also in the movie, so we're going to read this one. This one's called The Red Spot. While Ruth slept, a spider crawled across her face. It stopped for several minutes on her left cheek, then went on its way. "What is that red spot on my cheek?" she asked her mother the next morning. "It looks like a spider bite," her mother said. "It'll go away, just don't scratch it." Soon the small spot grew into a small red boil. "Look at it now," Ruth said. "It's getting bigger. It's sore." "That sometimes happens," her mother said. "It's coming to a head." In a few days, the boil was even larger. "Look at it now," Ruth said. "It hurts and it's ugly." We'll have a doctor look at it," her mother said. "Maybe it's infected." But the doctor could not see Ruth until the next day. That night, Ruth took a hot bath. As she soaked herself, the boil burst. Out poured a swarm of tiny spiders from the egg their mother had laid in her cheek. That's so creepy. That is the image. So spooky. You guys, that is a wrap on Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I hope you are having an amazing and beautiful Halloween night. I plan to post this video on Halloween, so hopefully that occurs. But I hope you're having a great Halloween, or had a great Halloween if you already had it. And stay safe and get a good night's sleep. See you in the next video.